shift the weight to the other side, and understand that if he doesn't sign those export licenses, the consequences for him and for Germany will be so much graver than if he signs them. And to be honest, that's already the case. He just didn't get it. He didn't understand it yet. For me, it's inexplicable. So I prefer not to fantasize about how the Russian managed to compromise him, or if it's ideological. Both these options are for me so bad I don't want to even think about it.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's really really crazy sometimes. I had a point, but I forgot him, Holland. Just give me a second, and I would say, Mr. M, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, there is nothing to say about it. The only thing that it matters is that Leopards must be released soon. It's an yeah, we can say everything about it, but that's the only thing that is important. That they will be rolling sometimes, and I hope sooner than later in Ukraine. That's the most important.
I would suggest. I mean, that's the real thing is getting rid of politicians in Germany was always the hard part, and was always an endeavor. And you see, in many countries under these conditions, we wouldn't have Christine Lambrecht as a minister of defense, but she had some scandals. She's still there, and yeah, the the last two things were really crazy. Where I really ask, I mean, that's, we know our politicians do dumb things, but at some point you really have to ask yourself if they are really watch themselves in the mirror and think about the things they are doing, if they are really having a self-reflection on themselves sometimes. And I think many doesn't do. Domin.
Yeah, I'm Alan. I'm curious what you think about the AMX10 RC.
I think that anything sent to the Ukrainians, they will put into good use. And if they have good thermal sights and a nice gun, then hell yeah. It's not a tank, not at all. But they are in desperate needs of all kind of IFVs, AFVs, APCs. Hell, they could use another 500 M113 wagons, and it would still be not enough. So it's great that I'm grateful for any nation contributing with what they can, but we need to send them a lot more. And yeah, I don't know the capabilities of that thing, but that's what I feel about it, anyways.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Oh, I see 122 is requesting.
Here we go. This is going to be the dismantling of the AMX10 RC. Thoroughly and fully. 122.
Yeah, sorry, I just joined. Were you speaking about the French stuff?
The weird French thing, yes.
Yes,
official term for it, because I don't know what to call it, because everybody's going to complain. Whatever I call it, everybody's going to complain. And then if I call it the weird French thing, it's only the French who are going to complain. So that at least limits the complaints.
I would call it a baguette on wheels, but that's just me. I don't know if you what you have said before. I just came on. I'm just gonna say, like, just emphasize anything Ukraine gets is amazing. It's great, but it was not what I was hoping for them to get right now, so to speak. Not that I'm picky, just want to say that I think some other stuff would have been great. Better than this, to be honest. But yeah, it has its functions, and if the Ukrainian wants them, great. Then they have their purpose.
You know what I wanted to? I'm thinking that this could be nice in some urban environments and where infrastructure is, not a not a bush or a swamp, because you don't want to drive that thing into a field. To be honest, doesn't look like it, at least.
No, well, I wrote Domen. He asked me what I thought about it, and I wrote to him in the DMs. I mean, first off, it has wheels. Secondly, it's not an IFV or can carry troops besides its crew. It's got some armor, maybe not the best. It's got a big gun, so it's good against tanks. But for infantry fights, I prefer a smaller gun that can fire a lot more rounds, and it's a bit more flexible in general. So they're getting some capability, but it's not the full kind of toolbox that you would get with an IV such as the Bradley. But I could really see it also working, like if you're guarding a front line and you have like 4 villages in, let's say, the village are spread out of maybe 8 miles, and you got a reinforcement point behind all these villages. You can quickly have like a QRF force with these in them when you need fire support and drive them out quickly.
What's QRF?
Quick reaction force. So you basically call on them when you need help or backup to a certain position, so you can get reinforcements quickly. And it will work fine then, because you will have roads to all these places as well, so they will get there quickly. But you're not getting the capability, and as I said, they would be probably more suitable, fighting in urban environments a bit better than performing on the fields, because they're not suitable for escorting infantry over fields and getting up to positions and then providing cover from there. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not just what's going to save Ukrainian lives the most and enable them to do stuff the most, in my opinion. But as I said, if the Ukrainians like it, fine, that's okay. That's the most important thing. If they want it, they should get it.
Lots of
Alright.
interest. Shall we start with Pauli?
Yeah, thank
Please.
you. Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, Ukraine really likes all the tanks or light tanks it can get. In my opinion, I'm sure they will know how to utilize them. If I read the specs correctly, the range was 800 kilometers or more, and the speed is 85, the road speed. So 1 to 2, what do you say about that? If you're using this for recon, what do you say?
It's good. It's a quick vehicle, and from what I've been watching some YouTube videos whilst not on the space, I can see why some people that have used it like it. It certainly has its capabilities. It's not bad at all, but it's not just. It's good for recon. Yes, I see. I can clearly see that. But the trouble is it's wheeled as well, so it needs to stay on the road for the most part, and that limits it a bit maybe in Ukraine at the moment, because probably a lot of roads are the prime targets for mines as well. So yeah, and I mean it's a good tank to drive the gun. So it's a great fire support vehicle, but just compare it like to an IFV, like such as the Bradley. The Bradley can do such many more roles and offers a lot more flexibility. So I really hope that's coming very, very soon, because if they have this and get that as well, I mean, they're going to complement each other somewhat. So yeah.
And I have to add that the amphibious capabilities, that's unique in my opinion, because our amphibious vehicles usually go like 3 kilometers per hour, but this goes 7.5 so per hour. So it seems quite fast also in the water. Although of course you don't really want to go in the water unless you really need to go, or there's a high reward to go over water.
Alan, please.
Oh my goodness, aliens are arriving.
Stop. Bad
Uh,
host phone. Stop.
You know, I every time that sound comes, I remember when they kidnapped me.
What, the first or the second time?
I don't remember. They used some strange mind trick. Anyways, great news. Norway sent a C-17 with 10,000 155 millimeter artillery shells today.
And on top of that, your project, Alan, with Peter and many others, has sent a truck with 400,000 euros worth of generators and other humanitarian aid as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. Did he publish it today?
It's out on Visegrad 24, so I'm guessing it's public now.
Yeah, you know, Peter Fröhlich and his amazing initiative. Just got a shout out. I'm a member. I'm looking forward to this new organization taking its shape, Fritt Ukraina. We have our first yearly Congress on the 10th of January, and several of the people from this space will participate, and a lot of very, very high-profile people from the, let's say, diplomatic former establishment and parliamentarians, etc., are members. So it's going to be a nice arena to discuss Ukraine and how to rebuild it and to end this war. And all creds to Peter.
So we were talking about artillery shells, and I had a question to 122, because CJ isn't here, and I can ask you this question now. Can you do indirect fire missions with the AMX? With these with the weird French thing?
It's not worth it. Also, let's okay, Alan, 122, Pauli, let's make an agreement. We shall consistently call this a tank, okay? Because has to be a tank. Because if this is a tank and it's Western made, and France is to the west of Germany, so Scholz can't say anything. It's immediately to the west of Germany. It's not west in the sense that if you go east far enough, you get there. You go west far enough, you get there. It's definitely a Western made. It's definitely a tank. Okay, everyone, it's definitely a tank. So that Scholz doesn't have any more excuses.
Domen, I'm terribly sorry.
This is important.
I get your point, and I'm all for the point, but I just can't do it. It just breaks my heart too much. Sorry, but I love the point.
I think I can hear 122. Domen, can you hear? Yeah.
I can hear 122. 122 says he's in complete agreement.
No,
this is definitely a tank. That's what he says, right?
It's a French tank.
Don't do this to me. Don't do it.
It's a French tank.
So we need to ask Germany and Olaf Scholz if he is delivering French tanks now, because it's a new class. I don't know. Do we have anything in the Bundeswehr with light armament at the begun?
Nobody has anything like this. This is unique.
Italy has one that I believe is actually better than this, and it's it's one of those so Italian things to do. They built their own tank. It doesn't work, and then they poured twice as much as money into the same kind of concept, the 6-wheeled platform with a 105mm gun on it, and they put it in a garage and never use it. They put it at street corners in Rome, and they call it Operazione Strade Sicure. So that means Operation Safe Streets. And they put army, recruitment tents next to it.
What kind of gun does that have?
I think it's similar, but it just stands around, and they put this, these tents and people with recruitment posters and flyers standing around there.
Do you know what's funny? At least in Paris, right? The Napoleon III Paris, you could at least kind of see the idea of having a big gun, on a street corner, because there's this long, straight avenues, right? But in Rome, it's still the city plan from, the old Romans, the old Romans from 2,000 years ago. So what? You're gonna shoot what, 70 meters, or what are you gonna do with it?
Yeah, and also Italy has really difficult terrain. So if it's flat, it's muddy. If it's not flat, it's really steep. But there are a lot of roads, so maybe it actually makes some sense. I don't know. Yeah, but I think those are mainly in garages or on these stands, because they can't afford to use these kind of things in the Italian army. You should ask Thomas Tyner about this thing, and he will probably... The monologue will probably go on for half an hour.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, at the end of it, does this have hydropneumatic suspension? I think it might have I'm just watching a video of it. I think it might have hydropneumatic suspension. So basically what you're saying is this is a Citroën tank.
Oh, God.
It does have a variable hydropneumatic suspension. This is a Citroën tank. This is fantastic.
Where's George, please? Oh.
I am now very excited about this. Who knows? The steering wheel probably only has one spoke. You can change the tire on it without having to do anything to it, because it can just lift one of the wheels. I bet it's fantastic. I'm just projecting now at this point, but I'm looking at this, and it's looking ever more like a French DS. So it makes perfect sense, really. Where's Nick Brown when you need him? Who appreciates the fine French engineering.
Does it have an LP recorder player between the driver and the passenger seat?
And why?
You haven't seen the French, the Citroën DS?
I have seen those first, but do you think you can hear anything in it?
When you have lunch, you need to put Edith Piaf, or else, can't drink your coffee.
No, have you ever had French coffee, Ireland? It's awful. It's absolutely awful.
That's why you need to listen to Edith Piaf, so the two really bad things, equal each other. Minus equals plus, isn't it correct?
They just think the more burnt it is, the better it's going to be. Of all the things, it's the one bit of culinary arts that the French have not mastered. They can be criticized for one thing when it comes to that whole division, but it's the one bit that they really haven't mastered. That I can't really think of anything else.
Did you have some coffee out
and
of
pasta?
Yeah, they put cream in pasta. That's true.
No, it's not just the cream. It's the majority of pasta you're ever gonna get are the really stupid little macaroni, and nothing.
And with the
Yeah, and it's going to be overcooked.
and with frozen peas.
Overcooked pasta with still frozen peas. That's very plausible. Yeah.
And beer. I haven't seen any good French beer. Wine, not a problem. but
Nonsense. Nonsense. That's a ridiculous statement, Bionade. That just means
Blanche,
beer-
isn't that French?
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if it's after the German Reinheitsgebot. So yeah, um, that's a specific question then. Pauli, please.
Yeah, I promised to drink French coffee, eat surströmming, and drink Italian beer. If that gets us the tanks to Ukraine, I'm up for it.
Hey, there's lots of good Italian beer.
Well, that's maybe one. Moretti is all right, I think.
But most of it is really bad. I agree.
All right. So, if you haven't done it, please retweet the space. And excuse me, if you have any podcast and any interviews you missed, please go to the MriyaReport.org website. There will be a link to Spotify, and you can hear some, not all, but some interviews on Spotify. All right, I see Christos coming up. Let's see what kind of news Christos have. Christos, welcome.
Krista, go ahead.
Hey, good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. I just wanted to say that I absolutely love it that at the end of the day, the conversation always reaches a phase when we talk about food and whether a certain piece of military equipment is a tank or not. I just love that.
You know, it's my excuse is that I need to read up on this thing because I don't know what it is.
If you figure out what it really is, Erland, I think you will do us and everyone else a big favor. I think even the French don't know what it is. Pauli, please.
Well, I've been monitoring how the conversation between Bulgarian and Ukraine is going on in terms of what they want and what they need. So I'm very confident that the Ukrainian military knows best what they need, and based on the way they're fighting this war, probably something lighter, faster, and more modern with night vision optics, etc. Will be probably even more useful than a main battle tank, for example. So probably that's what they asked for, and not what French are giving away just because they can.
Well, I believe that the Ukrainians have tanks on their top priority, alongside with the ATACMS. They have publicly stated so quite clearly. But there is this thing, and it seems that especially France and Germany, and to a certain regard also the UK, which are the only three European possible providers of tanks, nobody really wants to send them. And but the Ukrainians still keep asking for it. They send wish lists every month, I believe, and tank has been on top since 24th of February.
I'm just saying that maybe there's a difference between the lists that we publicly see and the list that procurement agencies are actually getting.
Well, maybe.
Polly, please.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the things that is on in the list that has been composed by Ukrainian army. I think they're asking and wanting many things, and they have a good reason for it. I would really be really keen on hearing from 1 to 2, the MX10 and the capabilities, how you see it used in a recon, because what I've read from the specs, okay, it's fast, there's range, it turns like a tank, it has smoke grenades, like 16 smoke grenades, then there's some protection like infrared laser protection, I think, some front armor, and the profile is quite low. So I presume that you could do the recon missions, then you can shoot a scout or just shoot and get out of the hot zone, so to say. So I think having this kind of light tank, or actually a tank, like we agreed, with high mobility would be good when you trying to find the weak spots, the soft spots in the front lines or in the lines. But yeah, the main question is that is there a capability, and how would you use it? How do you see it being used in Ukraine? Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just gonna go off to say, this is how probably I would see it used, just to be clear on that. It isn't what Ukrainians necessarily would use it. I mean, it is a recon vehicle. If you look, like, I think it's South Africa has used this type of vehicle. When you look at how they used it, it has speed. It has a gun that can poke an armor target if they run into one, so they're not completely defenseless. I would probably also see it used as a fire support vehicle with that gun, so you can be called up to provide, or be part of a fire support group when assaulting an enemy position with that gun. The mobility allows it to easily find new positions, which makes it a good option for fire support. It's just the wheeled part, and it's not super wide, and it doesn't have the capability to carry troops. That makes me feel it's not a good assault vehicle that should be part of a larger contingent. They should be more used as I said, recon and skirmishing vehicles, and on the fringes of the flanks of any bigger force, so to speak. So I definitely see there's a use for it in Ukraine. There is. It's not that it's a worthless vehicle. It certainly isn't, but it's just not what I would say is like a top priority. And if you look at the lists, ATACMS and tanks, modern Western tanks, if they were to be provided, like say 12 of them, and create a unit with them, I mean, I have no doubts that those MBTs would butcher anything the Russians have without even taking a scratch from that. So I still think the MBTs, they are the top priority, no matter what lists there are or not. And I do still believe IVs, such as the Bradley CV90, are still a more top priority than this vehicle. This is a sincere belief, but I don't know. There might be a list you're talking about, but I still don't see this one being that far up. But as a recon and fire support, it's good.
I have a serious question here, 1 to 2. This is not a French bashing question, it's a serious question. Do you think this can go fast in reverse?
Sorry, I didn't. Did you think it can? What?
Do you think it can go fast in reverse?
It should be so, since it's a wheeled vehicle. It should go fast.
Because I think this might actually have as many. Yeah, Wikipedia says it has 4 forward and 4 reverse gears.
It's very French then.
No, but this is important, right? Because what we were saying last time, 1 to 2, that it's important for armored vehicles to get out of trouble quickly while the front glasses is facing towards the enemy, right? So if this stops, fires, and can go backward more or less as quickly as it can go forward, this is a big improvement on what Ukraine is operating when it comes to the Soviet stock of vehicles, which go backward at basically a walking pace at most.
Yes, but I would differentiate this from like why you need reverse speed on like an IV or a MBT to some degree, because I don't see this being such up armored and less armored on different sides, and if you look at what it's armored in front. So yeah, it's still good to be able to go quick in reverse, because this is a peek and shoot vehicle, so it's even more, quick in, quick out scenario. But
Exactly.
it's not. Yeah, but it's not. In this case, it's more, because it doesn't have much armor anywhere. To be honest, it has some. Yes, it has, but it's not like if you look at an IFV. From what I can tell, it's not X amount of percentage in the front and others on sides, etc. So it's slightly different in that regard.
Fair enough. No, but I think it's a good idea. They should be in the right role, in the right hands. They will do damage, and the Russians will be very confused at what this is. So that's useful. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, as Ando would often say, it's the back of the class question here. Just on armor in general, obviously their armor's there to protect the occupants. How much, and of course I understand that depending on the ammunition fired at the vehicle, it depends on that of course as well, but how much of the armor protects the actual vehicle? I mean, how much can any vehicle with armor take a hit and still be quite effective operational, or is it simply just for protecting the occupants?
Both, I would say. I'm not sure if we're talking about this specific case or just tanks in general armor, but in tanks it's both. It's to protect the crew and the tank to keep it in the fight, so it can withstand the vital parts are not damaged during combat so easily. And but if you look at the Western tanks, they are designed to protect the crew, maybe not the Russians as we have seen Taras design. So depends on your philosophy as well.
Yeah, I was thinking just in general. Yeah, okay, thanks. So
1 to 2. Herman and I have just reviewed Article 2, Section 4 of Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. It specifies the term tank means a self-propelled armored fighting vehicle capable of heavy firepower, blah, 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 blah. Such armored vehicles have to be at least 16.5 metric tons thick, armed with a 360-degree traverse gun thick of at least 75 millimeter caliber thick. In addition, any wheeled armored fighting vehicles entering into service which meet all the above criteria shall also be deemed battle tanks.
It's a tank, Domen.
It's a tank. It's a Citroen tank, but it's a tank.
Oh,
It's a tank.
It's a tank.
I mean, wouldn't that be hilarious if this is now the last thing which denies Olaf Scholz the exclusion and say, oh no, we haven't delivered any tanks. We did. Yeah, the French did. The French did. It's a Citroen tank, but it's a tank.
It's a Panzer.
Excellent. Latin, go ahead.
Hey there, just dropped in and started picking some of this up. It's really interesting. I think I don't want to interrupt the discussion on that particular vehicle. Like, I just want to throw an idea in to the discussion.
Go for it, Latin.
No, okay, because I think that like the first thing I thought of when I saw that was, okay, that's a heavier capability than I was expecting to come from France anytime soon, since they had seen fairly, they had given aid, but this is a significant thing. As 122 said, it's a heavy enough recce vehicle that it's essentially, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 105 gun, so it's equivalent in terms of firepower to these modernized T-55s that Slovenia gave them a while back. So, anyways, what I took away from it was significant donation, significant capability coming from France. I've already started to see some speculation on Twitter about aircraft. I think it's perfectly rational to start thinking about what that could mean, what that could look like. The only thing I'll throw out there is be careful at this point about assuming anything about Rafale, because for a whole bunch of reasons that I don't have to get into it right now unless anyone wants to hear it. But my best bet would be that if this triggers further heavier capabilities and maybe aircraft and/or helicopters, I would expect to see the two that I would throw out there would be Super Puma and secondhand Mirage 2000s. Those are things that I would see as being more realistic here, not Rafale, but you never know.
By the way, I'm reading about this vehicle that it is fully amphibious tank destroyer. So probably it will have some great use across the Dnieper River, or do you guys think that the river is too wide to be crossed using such a vehicle?
It might be a little bit too wide for this to be practicable. I will say, however, these sort of things could be very useful on the smaller rivers in the east of Ukraine. So I wouldn't, go against it just because. So yeah. Anyway, I guess we can leave it at that. I don't really know what else to say. But maybe the Dnieper is a little bit impracticable. Pauli, what do you reckon? Would you take a Sisu over the Dnieper?
Well, if you
1 kilometer wide river.
if you're Finn, of course you would, no problem. But on a serious note, of course, it will not be really quick. And when you are in water, I think 122 also knows that then you are an easy target. So I think I would avoid, unless there's a high reward, I would not go over deeper with this. Even if it's possible that and at some section the current would be slower, then I guess would be in theory possible. But yeah, I think with the planes, I would like the Western countries, US, to send the A-10s, because then it would be really easy to just spell that they have AMX-10s and A-10s, right? It would be effective to spell.
Yes, exactly. Like the CV90s, the CB90s, the RBS 90s, all of this, all of the Swedish 90s, all of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a fantastic idea. Where did Latin go? Okay, fine. Ryan.
Okay, so I'm being lightly chastised for my improper use of military nomenclature. I called it the mullet of armored personnel carriers, but it may be more appropriately named a light tank. So how many personnel does this thing carry?
No, it's a tank.
It's a tank.
No. Stop. It's a tank, period. So says the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. I have the details. I've just read them out. You just missed it. It is a tank per the rules. We have a thing that has the rules in it that says this is a tank. Scholz has no excuse anymore. Western tanks are being sent to Ukraine, period.
Okay, I'm glad to know that there's an official tank committee that can sort these issues out for us. How many people does it carry?
It was signed, 4, but they're all needed to actually operate it. It is signed by the Russians and the Germans and the French and the Ukrainians and the Americans and everyone else. So it's pretty clear that that this is it.
Well, then it's official. I misspoke, and it's the mullet of light tanks.
Just tanks. Forget the light. Tanks.
It's a
And
tank. Fair enough.
in France, it's called char. I don't know how to spell it, but
Char de combat.
yeah, they
yes.
don't have any word for they don't use any light adjective for it. So it's a char. So it's a tank, right?
It's settled then. Thank you. Apologies
It's
if
far from
anybody's
sound.
listening for my improper use of APC nomenclature. It's got a big ass gun on top, so we'll call it a tank.
It's very simple. It's very simple, Ryan. The gun is over 75 millimeters. It can rotate to 360 degrees, and it's over 16.5 metric tons. The fact that it's wheeled doesn't come into it. I will have a tweet out momentarily for you to peruse with the relevant passage screenshotted. Daryl.
Yeah, concerning that amphibious capability, the one thing I would be looking at if it is a true amphibian is also its water drive system. How does it propel itself in the water? Because like on ours, we actually had impellers on them to be able to navigate in water. So that's the other thing that would also be looking at if it's a true amphibian when we're talking about that capability, because we were able to get 4 or 5 knots with our impellers. But if it doesn't have that and it's just relying on the wheels to paddle it along, then I would think just deep water fording would be more like what its amphibious capabilities would be.
Daryl, we call that wading with the BV 206. We seriously call it wading.
Right. Yeah, it's not really amphibious. I mean, it's amphibious, but it's just not. It can't swim per se.
The article that I'm reading is saying that after the upgrades that it got, the new suspension and gearbox, the unit has lost its amphibious properties. So it's obviously a no-no for the Dnipro River.
So there we go.
Yeah, for it to be amphibious, it needs to be not up armored. But if it's up armored, and we certainly hope it is, that doesn't work. There you go. 1 to 2.
Sorry, it took some time to get back to Twitter. All this, I mean, amphibious capability is great, but you have to keep in mind these type of vehicles that serve dual purposes with this capability, it's not the primary function, tend to be slow, and crossing something as wide as a Dnipro River is not something you would do unless you have a lot of support in your back. Artillery, you have aviation, you have deprived your opponent of the capability to strike you with a lot of resources. Then if it is capable of crossing such a wide river and deep river, you can do it, but I would strongly not advise for it. But as was the Doman that said, the smaller rivers that you have in eastern Ukraine or something like more like it's not a river, it's a stream or something like that. That's more suitable for that capability. You have to keep it in mind, and you don't want to be in water in anything that's not fast.
Well, but here's the thing: if you can cross deep water, even if it's a deeper river, the idea is for it to scout and be quiet and not be under full attack when you do that. So if it can sneak in a small river, not where somebody would be thinking that a vehicle could come across, then it would be doing the purpose that it was intended to scout and do basic reconnaissance. So you would not be looking for it to be under fire in doing so, which would help, that's what it's designed to do.
Just two things there. The Dnieper is not a small river in that I would say, and it's not looking for is not where you can go after, because the enemy dictates what you can go after. So I would say it's too slow, to be honest, if in the water. I'm not seeing this as a fast enough vehicle to be effective to get across the waters safely. You would put it at a lot of risk if you're trying to cross this vehicle. Making it really, really dangerous. Not worth the hassle, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you have a safe bridgehead and recon by lighter forces, then you have the capability of crossing it quite rapidly with something more heavy, which could give you more firepower and better range quickly, rather than actually using barges and pontoons, etc. But I guess this discussion doesn't really matter if they are not if they lost the amphibious capabilities.
No, of course, but I thought the discussion was about crossing the Dnieper River there. So that size, I wouldn't say it. But as you say, if you have a bridgehead or like maybe not something that big, that's a great capability.
Pauli?
Please.
Yeah, I think at the narrowest point, the Pro is like 400, maybe 450 meters wide. So even at top speed, it's like 3 to 4 minutes to go over, and then of course you have to do the preparation. So I think in a minimum, even if you was faster river crosser with that, it's like a 5-minute job. So plenty of time to get hit. And then if you have like a 12 of those crossing, it's not like a, how do I say, a safe task. So I agree that I would rather go over a really tiny or small river that normally is an obstacle. And I think I would point to the Troitske Kreminna, Troitske Svatove Kreminna direction, where you actually have small rivers and obstacles. So that could work. Thanks.
So the question is, have they better compatibilities for river crossings and amphibious style moving than the BMPs have? Because we have seen they are just, if you really good maintaining them, and just before you go into the water, change all the ceilings and everything, and it would be really interesting if this vehicle is a little bit better, because it has also a big gun mounted on it, and I'm not sure, does it weigh more than a BMP?
$15, $16, $17 tons, 20 tons for the up armored versions that they're likely getting. I don't know. Who knows how much a BMP weighs? Pauli?
Shooting from the hip, I think it's about the same size. I think BMP is it? I think I have to check, because I think I'm messing up the fact with BTR. So I think I have to check this. Yep.
Yeah, BDRs have wheels. That's what the VDV use. BMP1, Wikipedia says, sorry, I was busy atting at people. Wikipedia says that weighs 13 tons for BMP1, and a BMP2 weighs about 14 tons. So yeah, it's heavier than a BMP is. That's for sure. Definitely heavier than BMP. Thank you, Wiki.
Also, the version that will be given to Ukraine is an renovated version. It's another one. It is its capability is speed is 105 kilometers an hour on the road, and there were some of these were given to Morocco. These were changed because these were not would not be used as amphibious. Those are the ones that are not amphibious. But as I read, these ones are amphibious. It doesn't say how it is propelled in the water. That is. It could be with propellers, but it could also be with water jets.
Excuse me, I just was eating something. So, does anyone know someone who's driving French tanks? I mean, would be really interesting if we get someone up who can tell us a little bit more about it. What's in there? What kind of new optics? What kind of new systems? Do they have a good fire support system and everything like this? So, if anyone knows someone who's in the French military and has maybe experience with these kind of things, yeah, just retreat the space, send them a DM, and maybe you can help us out here.
Can I say this is important? Do you know who used to use these a lot? These AMX-10 RCs, as I call them, tanks, because that's what the paperwork calls them.
Domin, the French Foreign Legion?
Correct. Guess who there were a lot of in the French Foreign Legion over the years and decades?
Oh, don't tell me Ukrainians.
Yes, Ukrainians. So I would suggest, just a guess, I reckon they already have some people who know how to drive these things. Pauli, what do you reckon? Wouldn't this be really convenient, a really excellent coincidence?
Yes, so I guess this is also at least has been for some groupings and some legionnaires. It has been like a thing in the basic training to learn how to drive it. I think I don't know exactly when and for what like battalions or units it has been, but if I remember correctly, because the Legion has used it, I think their thinking was that everyone has to know how to drive it, even though they were not a tank driver in their future position in the Legion. But I think that was the case, if I remember correctly, because I've read some books with the Finnish Legionnaires, and I remember them also trained to drive this.
Pauli, have you had a chance to read the relevant the relevant passage that I had posted somewhere? Have you had a chance to read that yet?
Not yet. Does it?
I will now send it to you. I will try to link you the whole PDF as well, so that you can tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a lawyer, and you can tell me if I'm misinterpreting something about this treaty. Ryan, go ahead in the meantime.
As far as Ukrainians learning how to drive something on the fly and being proficient in it, I would say they're entirely capable. regardless of the number of foreign legionnaires that may have already had experience with this particular platform. Speaking from personal experience, if you give an average Ukrainian a donkey cart and a small CC engine and a steering wheel, they can make a vehicle out of it in about 72 hours. So, given the fact that there are a number of Ukrainians who served in the Foreign Legion, I think there are people already in country that know how to operate these things at a professional level. I've heard some whispers or some gossip from some French Ukrainians who hold dual nationality that their act of benevolence in releasing a bunch of the French legionnaires with their equipment to return to Ukraine may have been a face-saving measure on the part of France and less of an act of benevolence, just because the numbers of desertion were growing so high that they couldn't do nothing about it and still account for their missing legionnaires. But whether it was an act of benevolence or a face-saving measure, there are plenty of French Ukrainians who are more than willing to learn this if they haven't already. And I think if they would just turn them over, no training would be necessary inside of a week.
No, it really can't be that difficult, right?
It's not rocket surgery.
So, yeah.
We're not talking about a Patriot missile system, which isn't just a battery on the back of a truck. It's a full facility. I was wanting to remark that when Nina came up and was asking about training on Patriots and whether they were already in Ukraine. There are Patriots already in Poland, and Ukrainians can be trained on them, but that needs to be conceptualized more as a whole missile defense facility and not just a missile on the back of a truck ready to fire. You have to have more of those things ready to load up and prepared to fire. You have to have the counter battery radar or some kind of radar system ready to intercept them, and let the Gepards and some of the other small arms keep track of the Shahed drones and shoot those down, and then use the Patriots for the more tasty targets.
Oh, for sure. Patriots aren't going to be used on anything like that. No point in that. No point at all. This is very straightforward, and yeah. Thus far, for the last week or so, there's been a 100% rate of shooting down of these Iranian-made loitering munitions. There is really no need to even consider for a second for Patriots to be used for that.
I think they may have landed a couple of those drones in Kharkiv on the electrical grid, but Kharkiv being so close to Russia seems like a great candidate for a CRAM system that they could just set up in the middle of the city or a few places around the city and defend it pretty effectively from anything Russia wanted to send their way.
Fair enough. Ryan, apparently officially none were released. Just FYI. Okay, Pauli.
Yeah, it's really clear. It is a tank. It's 100% sure now. So
So Pauli, you're a qualified lawyer, right?
Even better, I'm an attorney.
Exactly, right. You're a qualified attorney. You have your law degrees. You're working towards a PhD in law. In a serious country called Finland, you have reviewed the relevant documentation, and your professional opinion is that the relevant documentation says that the AMX-10 RC is...
It is a tank, and Germany is part of the treaty.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that's actually what we thought. We knew it. And to add, this AMX-10 also, like I told you, it has the wheels that turn 360 degrees. The wheelbase turns. So it has the same kind of rotation or turning like a normal tank has. So both sides turn separately.
There we go. Easy. It's a tank. It's officially a tank. Can't do anything about it. And it's going to be delivered. It's definitely Western made. France is west of Germany. Germany can't say anything about that either. Easy.
So how do you differentiate a tank from mobile artillery? Is it the angle of rise on the barrel?
There's also armor. That's important.
Well, I was just thinking that the Paladins, which are US made, look like a big ass tank to somebody like me, an uninformed civilian observer. But when you get down to it, mobile artillery and a tank are two very different things. One of the reasons is mobile artillery shoots in a ballistic trajectory instead of more direct. But I may be screwing up my nomenclature even there.
Yeah, and then the turret in the tank always rotates 360 degrees, and then also vertically. I think I have to read the number, the exact amount of the degree is at least 16.5, if I'm correct. No, sorry, there was nothing about it. So turret was
no, nothing about the angle. Yeah. It was just how much it weighs, and
exactly.
It weighs enough. So,
but there was a turret that rotates 360 degrees, and I guess most of the self-propelled howitzers or artillery on wheels, they don't fulfill this requirement and the armor requirement. Yeah, thank you.
And I learned something new on the MriyaReport today, even 10 or 11 months in.
Okay, so there's going to be lots of people who are going to say, no, technically it's not a tank, it's a tankette or a reconnaissance vehicle or whatever. The point is, it benefits Ukraine that this is considered a tank, because thus far the excuse has been by certain governments, definitely not the German one, definitely the German one, saying that no, they can't send Marder's or Leopards because no Western-made tank or IAV has been sent, so Panzer, Schützenpanzer has been sent to Ukraine. Point is, there's this lovely thing called the Treaty on the Conventional Forces in Europe, and that specifies what is defined as a tank under that treaty. So for the people who are complicating life for Ukraine right now, there's a very nice legal document that Pauli, who's an attorney at law, has just reviewed and says this is definitely a tank under the provisions of that treaty, which Germany signed and Russia signed and Ukraine signed and France signed and the US signed and all the relevant countries signed, saying that legally this is a tank, right? So yes, it's a light tank, tank destroyer, whatever you want to call it, reconnaissance vehicle with an excessively large gun. The point is that legally it is a tank, which is a good thing. That's something that benefits Ukraine. That's the point. So let's it's a tank. For the purposes of this, it's a tank. Maybe a light tank, but it's a tank. And tank is the bit that matters, that this is a tank. All right, Abdallah, go ahead.
Hey, Doman, thank you so much. I just want to thank you for digging up that information that...
I have to give Herm credit. Herm dug up the information. Yeah. I just shouted about it on the internet.
You're doing that while you're also hosting, so I gotta give you kudos for that. So we have to thank the French president. So I was just wondering, Doman, if Macron was spooked by seeing those T-55 coming from Samara yesterday.
No, I think I know what happened. I don't know if you saw this, but Rogozin, the former head of Roscosmos, the guy who got somewhat blown up at his party in Donetsk a couple weeks ago, he sent a piece of shrapnel to the French embassy to Moscow, saying, "Look, it was fired from a Caesar. It's your fault that I was injured." He doesn't think that him being an occupier in occupied territories and in military uniform is part of why he was injured by it. No, that doesn't take it. It says it's all the French fault. And what, 12 hours later, the French say, yeah, we're sending things with 105 millimeter direct fire cannons to Ukraine. No question, no question.
So I guess Pionade and Axel will be sending this document to the chancellery, I think. Pionade.
Oh yeah, indeed, absolutely. We will make a big campaign online, I guess, and through the leopards. It's really time, and now Olaf Scholz, we don't have any more excuses.
Yeah, Pionade, that defense minister, is she still around?
Yeah, just talked about this. It's amazing, but it's not the first time we have incompetent people in important positions. So especially the defense ministry is yeah some kind of a step on the ladder you have to climb as a German politician at some point of time. And funny enough, I think it's the second time that someone from the family ministry is getting after being at the family ministry, which is maybe close to war. I don't know how hard it is in the family ministry, but yeah, it's a second person who is getting from this ministry to the defense ministry. So yeah, I don't know if you get special qualifications there, but it's a weird thing in Germany. It's really, I don't know why they don't just get competent people for this kind of positions.
If somebody wants to send me the specific coordinates for where Rheinmetall stores all these tanks that the German government never intends to use, I'll be happy to swing through Germany on my way back to Ukraine and maybe deliver one just so we can break this levy.
Do you have a tractor, Ryan?
I don't need a truck. I just need a gas station. I'll figure out the rest. Who's going to stop me? I'm driving a tank.
Someone's gonna stop you and say it's not a tank, it's a tankette. You will say no, I have the treaty on the Convention of Armed Forces in Europe. Here it says it's a tank.
No, look how easily it drives over your car. I'm headed to Ukraine. Get out of the way.
Just maybe look up the route before, because we know there are some problems with some bridges in Europe which are not so good at supporting tanks.
No, this is fine. See, it's fine because it's a light tank, but it's a tank.
I'll just go the way the crow flies. Just point it east and keep going until it's time to refuel.
Yeah, so, but Ellen, please.
Yeah, I was
I've got
just gonna.
Mathnian ways. Surely I can find it.
I was just gonna recommend Ryan to start the GoFundMe for the fuel expenses for your trip from Germany to Ukraine.
I don't want to get myself preemptively banned from Deutschland. I might need that as a transit country to get back to Ukraine, so I don't want to end up on any.
I was just gonna say that, right? I was gonna say, yeah, you might need to change to Frankfurt.
But I would assure any German government observers that if I do borrow one of your tanks, it's only unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. I'm not keeping it, I'm donating it, like they should.
You're just lending it, right?
I'm just lending it. We'll bring it back when the war's over. And I take full responsibility.
How many liters of diesel does a Leopard 2 take?
Probably depends on how fast you're driving it. But if somebody wants to do the backwards math, I'll see if I can set up some fuel caches on my way so I don't actually have to slow down any commercial gas stations.
I'm thinking in my head. I think this is going to be around 10,000 euros fuel or something like that.
Yeah, that's not cheap, but it takes teamwork to make the dream work. I would totally be happy to stand before a court of law in Germany and explain to them why I donated the Leopards that they built and don't intend to use. Maybe it would raise the profile for the Free the Leopards campaign.
I just wanted to say that, Germany they build some of the best weapons that are out there. And for instance, the rifle, my rifle from my time in the army, it's amazing. That thing is unbreakable, and it's light, it never jams, it's precise up to 300 meters, and magazines never break. It's really, really good stuff. I'm not talking about the G36 here, but people don't buy it because they have these weird policies. But maybe they should change their laws a little bit and promote their industry in Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine actually has a bustling arms industry all its own, and I think it will for decades to come after this. They just need a little help with economies of scale and getting things up to speed and post-Soviet manufacturing. So in the short term, yeah, Ukraine needs a bunch of help. As far as small arms are concerned, Ukraine just needs some loaners. And probably more importantly than that, some ammunition.
Thanos, welcome.
Hey guys, good afternoon. It's a fun little thread I've been listening to for the past 5 minutes. Maybe we call it escape from Dusseldorf or wherever you're trying to liberate this tank from. The challenge with some of the German small arms is that they are quite over-engineered, in my humble opinion. If you take a comparison between let's say a Mark 23 H&K handgun chambered in 45 ACP, and you compare it to almost any other pistol, you'll find that the German piece, besides being significantly more expensive, is significantly heavier with more pieces, parts to it. And it makes the supply chains more difficult. It makes really the maintenance more difficult. It doesn't mean that it's not a superior weapon in many aspects. It is. What it means, though, is that those aspects where it is showing its greatest superiority do not necessarily translate into victory on the battlefield. And that really matters when you are trying to field not just capability, broad spectrum capability, but capability across the board, as well as the capacity to be able to make a tactical and an operational difference. So when we're looking at the things that the Germans could provide, again, I would say the Leopards is definitely one of them. Anti-tank guided munitions is another. Small arms, no. 5.56 caliber ammunition, if that's where Ukraine is going, absolutely. If it's not, that decision needs to be made. 7.62 by 54 or 5.56. Let's pick a caliber and let's get on it, and let's start massing the caches, and we need to start massing the training as well. This cannot be a forever grab ass, whatever we can give to Ukraine, let's give to Ukraine. we're trying to field not just an insurgent army, but a professional army with streamlined logistics chains. And the only way you're going to be able to mass forces and mass capabilities is if you start building in some commonality. And those decisions need to be made soonest. If we're talking about urban fighting, yeah, 5.56 is probably the way to go. If we're looking at a future where this is going to be mostly long-range open field combat, you're probably looking at 7.62 ammunition that you're going to want to be fielding. So I just reiterate again that this is a good time for decisions to be made and for us to be judicious on exactly what the asks are and make sure that we're listening to the Ukrainians on exactly what they're asking for and that we are mirroring those requests. Thanks.
Thank you, and I agree. I don't advocate for Germany to provide stuff that Ukraine doesn't need. Just saying they have some industry that is really, really good. And my experience personally with that is the 416 platform, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and it has less parts than any other of the similar versions, and is a lot more reliable and rugged. That's their attempt on simplifying things, and it's really good. But I think sending the Leopards would boost anything in their weapons industry. That's my point.
Yeah, Erlen, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the reason why the French Army has gone to the 416 platform. I think that's why the Marine Corps, for its heavy machine gunners, have also transitioned to the 416. It makes sense. It is not a direct gas impingement weapon. It is, a much more robust platform, given the what do we call it? I'm trying to remember what the exact terminology.
The metallurgy in the rail system and the grip and everything.
But it's also the bolt mechanism, which is similar to the AK. It's not that direct gas impingement. It is oh God, I can't believe I'm brain farting like this. I guarantee Daryl knows from his Army days. But yeah, I'm with you. When we're trying to field mass, those things are just so expensive that I wonder if we're going to be able to get enough of them out there fast enough to make that difference that we're all trying to make. But I'll yield the floor. Thanks.
No, I'm just saying they should send the Leopards and the Martyrs, and that will revamp a lot of their other industry. And they have a lot of really good things. Rheinmetall is an excellent engineering company, and so is Heckler and Koch and a lot of others. But they seem to not understand that their weapon industry is important for themselves as well.
Benas, go ahead.
Hey, hello, can you hear me?
We can go
ahead. Sorry. So, good evening, everyone. Good morning, and through the all time zones for everyone.
Benas, we have loud crackling noises from your microphone.
Okay, I understood what you were going to say. I think I fixed it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So a couple of days ago, I talked with my sister's husband. Extremely smart guy, wise guy, yeah. But he came up with one statement about situation in Ukraine with weapon supplies and everything, and his statement sounded I don't know, some kind of crazily conspiracy silly. So his point was that Ukraine is going to be in huge debt because of supplied weapons, and I had doubts about that. How is it going? Is it a is Europe and USA and all the world is giving weapons for free, or is it going into debt? I know that part of it will be covered by assets taken from Russian Federation, but what about all the billions and billions? Is it because of, I think, Warsaw Pact, or which one was that, granting Ukraine's independence for us to protect them?
Okay, stop.
Or
You're muddling
thank
up
you.
a million different things that don't make any sense together. The Warsaw Pact was doing what? Granting Ukraine's independence. That's like saying that, I don't know, the Tooth Fairy was piloting the space shuttle that took us to the planet. Somebody tell me what they used in Star Wars. It makes no sense. I'm sorry. Look,
Okay.
at the end of the day, the stuff that various countries are sending to Ukraine, the bulk of it are already in stocks. They were purchased usually in the 1970s and the 1980s and the 1990s in order to avert a Russian invasion of Europe. Are they going into debt? Well, no, because it's stuff that they've had in warehouses usually for decades, right? It's very hard to go into debt over something that you've already had. I mean, Benas, do you have like an old pair of skis in the shed somewhere? Okay, are you going into debt if you give them to someone? No, because they're just a pair of skis that you've had in your shed for the last 15 years. Well, the same basically goes to the bunker. I'm just giving an Erland example, one that he can relate with. They're just handing off stuff that has been wasting away in warehouses, waiting for a chance to be used when Russia invades Europe. Russia has invaded Europe. They're now giving them to the people who are defending Europe from a Russian invasion. Simple as that. I think your brother-in-law, who thinks that the Warsaw Pact granted Ukraine independence, needs to have something examined. I'm not sure what. I'm not the right kind of professional, but that is, I don't know, sight to start with. Maybe read up on what the Warsaw Pact was, or the history of Ukraine. That'd be a good start. I can
It's
suggest
maybe
Gates of Europe, good book.
Maybe I'm mixing up. But just skip that part. I will read through to get better understanding.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Ukraine is getting a lot of stuff. That has been in warehouses for a long time, and that is what they're using. I mean, for God's sake, what have you seen delivered to Ukraine thus far? Other than HIMARS, most of the stuff was from built in the 1970s.
There's only one thing, Doman, that is new, and that's air defense and Javelin rockets. But
exactly,
but we gave them to them.
Well, the Javelins even are 25, 30 years old.
Yeah, but they're still building them. But we gave them to Ukraine because Ukraine needs them, and because they're really good at using them. And Russians are not very good at countering them, so they lose their war.
I get this part, and I needed a saying of that we are giving them, not like they will owe us money because of that.
Another thing is that major European countries have given quite a lot of money into different pools. So there's a EU pool. There is a British administration. Can you please mute your mic when you don't speak, by the way, because we get very much feedback.
Sorry.
And
sorry.
Thank you. And this money is being used also to pay their soldiers their wages, and some is also being used to buy ammunition for legacy systems that they inherited from the Soviet Union, that they can procure on the open market around in the world. Even in some African countries, there has been shipments of ammunition and things like that, and spare parts. So Ukraine won't get any debt from the weapon deliveries per se.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to hear, and you made my point to him clear, because I had the doubts saying that what you told me just now, because I wasn't too sure. Thank you for making me sure. Thank you for helping Ukraine. Yeah, have a good one.
You too. And Warsaw Pact, Domen, didn't that stop in like 1990
Something like that.
or
Yeah,
89?
something like that.
It was basically dead in 89.
Yeah, and something like that. Anyway, Thanos, go.
Yeah, I'm going to post shortly here some references, but that's not entirely accurate. There are quite a few loans on top of the non-give back or payback aid. Right now, a lot of those loans are being put on a very, very long-term extended payback plan, whereby no interest is being charged for the foreseeable future. Now, whether those loans end up turning into some kind of loan forgiveness mechanism, wouldn't be surprised. Lend Lease itself is not free. Again, it is a program where there is a very low burden put onto the nations that we are working with. But again, it is not on its face a completely free system. So this is one of those things where right now Ukraine doesn't have to worry about paying it back, or if they're going to pay their soldiers, or service their loans, or risk not getting any more aid in the future. The idea behind this is that Ukraine focuses on winning the war and keeping its people from starving in the near and midterm, and even maybe the near far term, if that's even a phrase, before any kind of payback needs to be considered. But when we are trying to say what these things are, we need to try to be accurate, make sure that we say that there are many different mechanisms at play here. Some are non-payback aid, they're grants, they're different funds, there's weapons that are given, but also a lot of this is still coming down under foreign military sales that will have some expectation in the future. So, and that is all part of the legal wrangling and mechanisms that have been used in order to get these funds and these weapons to Ukraine as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and it's slightly tangential to what Benes was asking about, because Benes was asking about military stuff that doesn't fall into the 18 billion euros facility, nor the similar facility by the US, nor the third similar facility by Canada. But nevertheless, you're quite right, obviously, Thanos.
And nothing that
Go ahead.
nothing that we're giving them. It's not like we're going to be charging them current prices for a current Javelin, right? You're locking in a price that's already prorated based off of where that equipment is in its service life, with 2022, 2023 dollars, and you're not going to have probably any kind of expectation for even a fraction of payment back, probably until the 2030s or beyond. So this is not going to break Ukraine, is the point. But it is still not free, right? Ukraine is still going to be on the hook for at least some of this, and hopefully, and this is something that as Americans, when we're trying to rebuild the kind of free neighbor that we want to have, we will keep in mind as we progress, and as the war comes to an end, as the rebuilding effort in Ukraine happens. We look at Ukraine and we say, similar to what we said with Europe during the Marshall Plan, which was, okay, we could literally come with our hand out now and totally break you, or we can partner with you, help to rebuild you, make you a key ally against our common enemy, and then have you as a reliable partner for the next 50, 70, 100 years. Usually the latter will be selected.
No, and also, people who say, oh, this could bankrupt Ukraine. No. What can really destroy Ukraine is, the Russian military. But a Ukraine, once it's free, as it gets ever closer integrated into the rest of free Europe, that brings with it, of course, a lot of potential for economic growth, not to mention investment. If anything, that will be a massive boon to the economy of Ukraine, of course, and it will make it a whole lot easier for them to repay. It's really a trivial non-issue. What is a big issue? I'm just waiting for Colby to stop connecting on my screen. I know the rest of you will be able to hear him. It's just that I won't, and I don't want to miss out for it. But I just think it's absolutely fantastic, and I hope Colby hears me. That by matter of fact, the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe says that this is a battle tank. And if you check the title, it now says that France sends battle tanks, brackets, not main. I had a bit of a fight with John Ridge on the back channels, and this is the consensus we came to. See, just like the German government, sometimes you operate the consensus. This is a balanced view of what this is. It's a battle tank, because that's what the treaty says, but not a main battle tank, which is fine. That's okay, but that's not relevant for the treaty. It's definitely a tank, which is the important bit, because now nobody has an excuse anymore that a Western tank has not been delivered, or a Western battle tank even will not have been delivered to Ukraine, because now they will be. And seeing that France is immediately to the west of Germany, the German Chancellor won't have that excuse anymore, which is a good thing. And I'm very happy about that. All right, Colby, I see you're connected now, even on my screen. It is in the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe, the Germany, France, America, Ukraine, Russia, Britain, they've all signed it. They've all agreed to the definition. So the legalese reading legalists in the Chancellery don't have a way out. That's what we've determined. Pauli is a certified attorney at law. He's read the treaty. He affirms completely that, yes, under the treaty, the AMX-10RC is a battle tank.
Sure.
That's all that matters. It's a good thing. No, this is important for Ukraine. I don't care what it actually is, but the treaty says it is, therefore it is. That's the important thing.
I would always normally argue such a case, but we all know that what it means, right? Colby, please save us. I'm sick enough already.
There's nothing to save. It is a fact. It has been established.
Tank. It's a tank.
I think this is the lightest of all tanks, but Colby, please.
So real quick before I move on to French armored fighting vehicles, I can't speak for Europe, but as far as the United States is concerned, Ukraine does not owe the United States one penny for any military equipment unless it is being procured via FMS. And I don't know if anything has actually been bought directly by Ukraine through FMS or DCS, but that's even less likely. So everything is being provided either through PDA, which is free to Ukraine, or USAI, which is also free to Ukraine. So Ukraine doesn't owe the United States anything right now. I will advise if that changes, but so far everything is being paid for by Uncle Sam, and the only time that Ukraine would owe any money to the United States is if they are either using their own funds to procure things through an FMS, or I believe there may have been some FMF funding that was provided for FMS, but I do not know if that has yet happened. I haven't seen any reporting on Ukraine directly procuring anything themselves. So I will I'll look into that a little bit further. But anyway, point being, Ukraine doesn't owe the United States any money right now. As for this debate around French armored fighting vehicles, so AMX-10RC is primarily an armored reconnaissance vehicle. That said, within French doctrine, it also performs tank destroyer roles and light tank roles on the battlefield. And according to this European law or treaty, apparently it has been designated as a light tank as well. Which...
No, as a battle tank, Kobe. Not as a light tank, a battle tank. It has the same designation under the treaty as a Leopard 2 or as an Abrams. There's no separate category as a light tank in the treaty. It is a battle tank.
Absolutely absurd, and whatever lawyers.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's not the point.
Yeah, I understand the point you're making. I still have to say that is absolutely absurd. The lawyer who wrote that should be dragged out of his house and shot in the streets, because that's just insane. This is not a tank. It is not a tank. It is not a tank. But if the European lawyers want to call it a tank, it is good for Ukraine's purposes, because now you can go yell at Olaf Scholz and say, see, the French have given tanks, now you have to as well. So even though this law is absurd and the lawyer who wrote it should be killed, it's good news for Ukraine. I'm sorry, it's not a tank. It just isn't. You can't call it a tank.
So
I'm sure that this lawyer has passed away already. So
my
there's nothing to be
characterization
done.
of a mullet of an APC was correct? It's ugly, but it's functional.
It is not even a recce tank. It is, as Colby quite rightly said, used due to its gunnery capacity and its deflection capacity as a rolling anti-tank gun, specifically in a light support function. And that's fine, but it's not what we want. If France really wants to be taken seriously, they should send a bunch of Leclercs, and that would make a difference.
So beyond the semantic debate here, any military equipment Ukraine receives is a good thing. This is a useful vehicle. Again, armored reconnaissance, that is important. The fire support abilities that it has, that is important. Despite what French doctrine or European law might say about it, using this thing as a light tank or as a battle tank, quote unquote, is an extremely good way to get yourself immediately killed. Thankfully, the Ukrainians are not idiots, like the lawyer who drafted that law, so that they would understand that trying to use this thing as a tank is likely going to result in dying. That said, again, they can use it effectively because Ukrainians are smart and tactically adept and understand the role that such a vehicle would play in the battlefield, providing reconnaissance functions and fire support functions. And Ukraine has been asking for such vehicles that have mobile firepower. So I'm sure they're going to get utility out of it. That said, yes, Ukraine still needs many more vehicles. They need more actual main battle tanks. They need armored fighting vehicles. And to the extent that this vehicle's classification in French doctrine and in law is useful for further breaking this this logjam on the delivery of advanced AFEs and MBTs. That is a good thing. Again, you can go to Olaf Scholz now and say, see, look what the French are doing. What is your excuse now? Why can't you even send martyrs? If the French can send this, can't you even send a martyr? So hopefully we see some further movement on this front, on CV90s, on Bradleys from the United States. There's been a lot of rumors about that lately. Apparently, John Kirby said that there will be a new American package in the coming days or weeks. So hopefully there's more goodies in that. And the ground is going to freeze the next week, it looks like. So time is of the essence here. We need to get more AFVs to Ukraine.
So can we just split the difference and call it the mullet of shoot and scoot?
It's a tank.
Oh, I love this debate.
If you take that legal definition and all this wonderful paper it's written onto the battlefield and come back alive successful, you can call it a tank.
You don't have to take it to the battlefield, just the Bundeskanzleramt. That's the only place it needs to be taken.
Yes, and the definition won't help you because the Bundeskanzler will then retreat back to advice by his army command. And do you think that even a very pro-Ukrainian and pro-freedom brigadier general such as Freuding or von Sandrart would say this is a tank?
That's besides the point. The paper says it is. The politicians read the paper. They don't care about any of the actual practicalities. This isn't about what's practical. Now, if you want to talk what's practical, let's talk about what the Ukrainians were doing in eastern Kharkiv Oblast when they were liberating 10,000 square kilometers of territory, what kind of tactics they were using, and how this would play into that sort of approach. We really want to talk about what's practical as opposed to what's technical.
This armored or rolling armored anti-tank gun of French produce is equally helpful to defend the Maginot Line as its imaginary existence still today. It does not help in the context of things. It will be good for certain roles, and that's nice, but it does not help us release those damn main battle tanks. France passed upon an opportunity today. And the opportunity was to say, we're going to send 36 Leclercs, one full brigade. Thank you very much.
It makes so much more sense now. This is brought to us by the same people that delivered the Caesar. Hideous pieces of equipment, but utilitarian.
One to two.
So much for French fashion.
I'm just gonna go with it for now, and just for the sake of, if it's for getting tanks to Ukraine, fine, okay. But I will never ever want you to call them a tank on the battlefield, please, okay. So just for definition, to get Schultz to send some Leos, fine, but never ever on the battlefield say that. Call that thing a tank, please. Okay, can we just agree on that? Like, just
No,
you know,
120.
It's a battle
Okay,
tank
thank
brackets,
you.
not main.
When the first
Okay.
video of one of these taking out a T-55, I'm gonna post French tank killed its first Russian tank.
It's
Oh,
an
fuck.
anti-tank, for fuck's sake. It's an anti-tank
Yeah.
gun. That's what it's for.
Axel, I love you. Thank you.
I think if the barrel were pointed at me, I would consider it a tank. But if I'm sitting in it and a Russian barrel is pointed at me, it's not a tank.
Okay, my question is: would we consider the Sheridan a tank with all of this?
The Sheridan
I don't
most
know.
definitely is a tank.
Can we send some of them to Ukraine?
They don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Ukraine doesn't need Sheridans anyway. That's not helpful.
But you know, Daryl, do you know what Italy has in storage?
I have no idea.
The M60.
You got to be kidding me.
No, and they're considering to upgrade them.
They don't have the M68-3?
I think they're gonna take the turret off and build a new turret on it.
So that thing can't even make 30 miles an hour. It's like a 15 mile an hour tank. Why? Just drive, but just why?
You can ask them why they also built two different versions of their own Ariete tank, and then bought Leopards, and the Italian armory is a crazy long list of strange stuff.
Okay, why don't we say the Ukrainians will make most effective use of it, and that's great, wonderful. Merci bien to the people in the Élysée who cocked this up and failed to do the right thing, and that's great. Let's move on.
I'd still like to offer up option C, where somebody sends me the location of a Leopard and I drive it to Ukraine and we break this dam.
No, actually,
In
let's
for a
be
penny, in for a pound, right?
Can I ask a question? Is the Leopard positive grounded? I mean, is the Leclerc positive grounded? If you know Volkswagens, you know what I'm talking about.
You mean, can I push start it?
No. Is it
I'm not that
positive,
big a boy.
rounded? No. Is it positive, rounded? The old Volkswagens had a positive ground instead of a negative.
I don't think
So
so.
somebody's laughing.
Daryl, I don't. Yeah, yeah. And apart from the fact that I'm laughing my head off, if I weren't so sick, which unfortunately, as you can hear, I am, but still, Jesus Christ. The key thing is that the Clerk is a decent main battle tank. It's just super bloody heavy, and it's not as mobile as it should be. Its gun is great, and if we could, it's like the question about the old Challengers. Challengers have a fantastic gunnery. They're just not as fast and as mobile as you would want them to be, but they have some of the best deflective armor in the most recent upgrades. My friends in the, shall we say, the tank business consider to be worthy. And if we had some Brits up here, they would tell you that. All of these things are good, but ultimately, they are not what's needed. Ultimately, this all boils down to one argument taken off the table. Mr. Scholz must not have the argument that there is no demand by the Ukrainians and that there's no collective, no coalition moving all along, so that this constant procrastination due to we don't lead, the allies have to make that decision, we only do this in sync, that this is taken away as an argument, and it takes that one phone call. We're back to the same thing as always. The Leopards, both the Leopard 1s and Leopard 2s are the ones which make sense. So let's focus on how to campaign for that. And other than that, the legalese discussion is fun, but take that paper to the battlefield and come back alive.
Not the battlefield, the Bundeskanzleramt. That's all that matters, not the battlefield. The paper is for Scholz. The Leopards are for the battlefield. This is just a way. This is the courier vehicle that delivers the paper to Scholz. Think of it like that, just for that purpose. Forget the battlefield for the AMX. This is what the UPS guy is going to drive. Right, Pauli?
Exactly.
Really scary.
There's a really good song by Mobb Deep called "Temperatures Rising." So I guess, in my opinion, the temperature's rising now, little by little.
That I grant you. With that, I definitely agree. The temperature continues to rise, unfortunately, slowly.
Absurd argument. I'm laughing, but yeah, let's keep moving forward for the Leopards. For Schultz, it's a bouncer.
Okay, do you want to talk about something else? Colby, you're like this. The senior White House reporter for Bloomberg says, Biden tells reporter on tarmac in Kentucky when asked if Bradleys are on the table for Ukraine, yes.
That's very good news. That's very good news. Hopefully somebody shoves Jake Sullivan into a closet so he can't quash that.
Okay, so, and no, we know the Bradley's not a tank. We're not going to start that discussion because it definitely isn't. And we know why. Because its gun is less than 75 millimeters across. And silence has descended upon us. I see how it is. Fine.
Yeah, I'm not much worth at the moment. I'm fading quickly if I don't feed tea all the time. Give me a second.
So I guess the question is, actually, you will know this. Can a Panzerhaubitze rotate its turret through 360 degrees?
Yeah, it should, absolutely.
Really? What's the point of that? I don't get it.
It should definitely do a full. Wait one. I'm too tired.
Okay, sorry about that.
Wait.
I'll ask you again.
No,
I'll ask you again tomorrow.
No, wait one. No, the way it's set up, the way the ring is set up, it can't. Sorry.
It can't. I thought so, because I wouldn't see any point in that.
Yeah, no, it's the ring is different, and that's also why it doesn't break. I'll send you a copy of the ring. I have one here.
I think this is both interesting and important, so it's good. Definitely, a Panzerhaubitze does not qualify as a tank under this. The only question is it sufficiently well armored? And probably yes. I mean, it's pretty heavy, lots of steel there. Must be considered, it's heavily armored, sufficiently heavily armored. I guess that's a technicality. That's for the lawyers to discuss.
I'm getting some messages about this performing very well in Mali, and that it's
excellent.
And
I mean, when I think of Mali and I think of Ukraine, they're basically the same place, isn't it? Same terrain. I mean, they both are exceptionally dry with very little precipitation, sand dunes. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, at least in the Leshki sands, it will do really well.
Well, and also that supplying these kind of vehicles wheel-based will help them, because it has less maintenance requirements because it doesn't go on belts. And if you can, I imagine that if you can replenish some of the lines with where they are useful, and move some of the tracked vehicles where they are needed, then you can alleviate something. So that's a nice thing.
Latin, welcome.
Hey, Doman. So, is it okay if we kind of?
Yeah, I think we've wrung them out for all their worth. All the onion soup's all over the floor. We're trying to soak it up with the baguettes. It's not working very well. It's a right mess. But there we go. Sorry, just a silly culinary joke. Latin, go ahead.
No, there's going to be more on this clearly at some point, and I think I would probably at this point want to just backtrack to or wider lens on the whole thing, right? And consider it may not be a tank, but it is still a significant weapon system being given by France, by one of the countries that, maybe fairly or not, has been characterized as being a little bit like Germany, not really as enthusiastic in transferring weapons as many supporters of Ukraine would like to see. So I'd like to look some of the guys that we talk about on other channels and back channels about aviation. I think it's related to this again because France could play a very important role in this, and this vehicle transfer could be at the very least a pointing in the right direction of what could come next. The one of the capabilities, and I think there's going to be a little more discussion on this on Sunday, where we're going to be talking about aviation again, is the situation of the Ukrainian Army aviation. I think it's fair to say that it's concerning. The videos that we see on a regular basis, I think the last one I saw was maybe 24, 48 hours ago, of the helicopters flying low level and doing close air support for the ground forces. We've seen them over and over again, consistently through last year, and we're still seeing it now. One of the things that concerns me is that they appear to be, and I'm going to go back to something that our guest a few weeks ago, Nuckley, is that his name? The former IDF guy, right? Who was a volunteer in Ukraine, and he said that I thought one of the takeaways from what he said was, when I asked him about those helicopter operations, was that he said he was seeing things that he had never seen in the IDF. I mean, the IDF have a pretty good fleet of gunship helicopters, and they have a pretty good handle on tactics, a lot of experience. And the Ukrainians are throwing a lot of helicopters into that role, into that direct fire role. Well, it's actually